Alright, so some may be feeling a little bit burned out with the Pokemon videos as of late, but just know that as a huge Pokemon fan, it's been eating away at me that I haven't been able to talk about these games sooner than later. That said, I wanted to wait until a substantial amount had been shown before I gave my 2 cents, and now, I think is the perfect time to recap some of the features shown off, as well as what I personally think about them. Now, Pokemon Sun and Moon had me excited when first announced, though I kept it in check until around, I would say, the 3rd trailer came out, to which my excitement steadily built to the level it should be at. Likely because X and Y were the first 3D Pokemon games for the handhelds and my hype was through the roof for that aspect alone. I mean, I'm always ready for a new Pokemon adventure, but Sun and Moon just had a little bit more to do to please me. First thing I want to cover is the extra features that these games are boasting. I'm really liking the extra little details and visual bumps we're seeing with this game. The backgrounds are noticeably a lot more colorful and have a lot of variety to them and in them. Moves look like they pop out even more, there's more happening on screen with the trainers, and overall the presentation's a nice jump from Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. It also seems like we'll be getting some new Pokédex entries for old Pokemon. Upon further inspection of the E3 footage, I noticed that Ledyba has an entry not recorded in any game yet, and I always like seeing old Pokemon get new stuff added to them. That was one thing about X and Y that kind of irked me. All the old Pokemon had reused entries and it made things a little less interesting, but this is nice. They also showed off Hyper Training, which seems to be the key to manipulating a Pokemon's IVs. I have never bothered with IVs as I've never felt up to the task of trying to figure it all out, but if this new feature is what I think it is, I'd be willing to give it a shot. It also says to do this, you'll need something called bottle caps. I'm not sure what that'll entail, but I know a certain blue-haired man who's not gonna give any of his up. No, sir. Seeing Zygarde get some love is also pretty nice after thinking it would just get swept under the rug. I legitimately thought it would be an anime-only thing, but I guess I was wrong. Speaking of Pokemon themselves, the ones that have been shown off so far for Alola have been very interesting to say the least. It's been a little bit hit and miss so far for me, but when they get something right, they definitely get it right. Some of my personal favorites of the ones we've seen include Popplio, which I'm gonna start off with, Rowlet, Salandit, Mimikyu, Mudsdale, and Bewear. Bewear in particular is absolutely horrifying. I think it's cool how the Alola folk are afraid of it. You don't see many Pokemon these days that are universally feared. We're usually buddy-buddy with them all right off the bat. What I'm hoping from Game Freak right now is that they stop unveiling new Pokemon for this region. So far we've got 25, and if X and Y's roster is any indication, this could very likely be half of the full roster already. I really want them to go for a higher Pokemon count again, somewhere near 100, but in case they don't, I don't want the bulk of the roster spoiled and lose the surprise factor for the games because of that. In terms of Pokemon I want to see, I'm hoping there will be a few new evolutions / pre-evolutions of older Pokemon and maybe a few new Megas. Interestingly, we haven't heard a single thing about Mega Evolution for this game yet. I'm pretty sure that they're in the game, but it just makes you wonder what they're doing having not shown it off so far. I've heard some things about Synchro Evolution, but until I have something concrete to go off of, I'm not buying it. The new abilities have also been a mixed bag. On one hand, some are really cool and could shake up the metagame as we know it even more, with things like Mimikyu's Disguise and Salandit's Corrosion abilities. But some are literally just old abilities with new names, like Solgaleo's Full Metal Body, which does the exact same thing as Clear Body for another Psychic Steel type, and Lunala's Shadow Shield is literally just multi-scale. Giving it a new name does not make it an ability no one's ever seen before, Pokemon.com, and if the Pokemon with these new ones can't do much else but flaunt a new gimmick like their stats are garbage, that could prove to be bad too. But all in all, in terms of Pokemon, the main thing I love about the series, I'm liking it a lot. But let's get into some things that have me a bit concerned or that I just don't like. I'm hoping that the game isn't super easy like X and Y was, but things like the new user interface have me skeptical. There are some things I like, such as being able to track stat boosts and drops, but other things that I feel are a bit excessive. The game telling you what moves are effective on the enemy is kinda nice, but at the same time, we're 20 years into the franchise and no one's really had an issue with not knowing from the get-go what move does what to the opponent. I'd argue it's part of the learning experience for the player, but now, I don't know, I'm really conflicted with this. I'm hoping at the very least it can be toggled on and off. And lastly, How seems to be another optimistic, overly friendly rival. I can't stand when we have the rival that we know is never gonna become a true threat, but they're just gonna keep on smiling and never try to get on our level. For goodness sakes, he picks the starter that's weak to yours. Is it really a rival at that point? I can't confidently say that's what I'm looking for in a rival. Was Blue a good rival because he was a painfully optimistic goody two-shoes? Were Sharon and Bianca memorable for being so middle of the road? No! You're middle of the road, you're not memorable. I'm not saying How needs to be some edgy brooding preteen with red hair. I just hope he's more of a character than Happy Trainer that's fine with being second place, you know? Now, even with all that said, Sun and Moon are looking pretty nice so far, improving on stuff I may have had issues with a generation prior, while adding some new stuff I'm not insanely stoked for. At the end of the day though, it's a new Pokemon game, I'm excited, and I can't wait to see what else is in store. I remember saying in an old XY update that if there was a Gen 7, they better step up their game to beat Gen 6, and that still stands, you know. I got faith in you, Game Freak, don't let me down. And if you want to know my thoughts on Pokemon Go, well, I can't play it because my phone's so old it can't download apps anymore. The only Pokemon Go I know is that terrible song from Mastermind of the Mirage Pokemon. Anybody remember that?
Yo! Pokemon!
Oh god! Oh god! I take it back! Stop! Stop! Stop!